The Legend of the Eight Immortals.
Chapter 20, The Supreme Ancestor and the Trial of the Azure Bull. Before the heavens and earth were separated, and long before the first dawn, there existed a soul of pure celestial essence. This was Grandmaster Laojun. He is the spirit of the heavens and the soul of the earth, the supreme ancestor of all sacred mountains. To fulfill his divine mission and guide those with a destiny for the Tao, the Grand Master has descended into the mortal realm through countless cycles of time. In his most miraculous incarnation, his divine spirit entered the womb of the Jade Maiden of profound mystery. Then came the sacred miracle. The Grand Master was born, emerging from his mother's left armpit beneath a large plum tree. He was born with hair as white as snow and ancient lines of wisdom upon his forehead. Most wondrous of all, he could speak from the very moment he entered the world. He pointed to the lush plum trees surrounding them and said to the Jade Maiden, "I am born beneath these trees, therefore Li, the plum, shall be my surname." The Jade Maiden happily agreed. She then named him To the world, he became known as Laozi, the Saint of the Great Way. Grandmaster Laojun remained spiritually ever awake. As his cultivation deepened, he frequently manifested in the mortal world to vanquish demons, subdue monsters, and rescue those in distress. Following a long period of service as an imperial official and traveling to distant lands, he eventually returned to the heart of the Zhou dynasty. Toward the end of that era, the Grandmaster spoke to his family one last time. "Since the dawn of chaos, I have descended into this world time and again to save and guide humanity. For the past century, I have lived in seclusion while the world was in turmoil. But now, after 500 years, my time here is done. In the West, there is a soul waiting for me to guide them to enlightenment. I must journey through the great pass to save this person, and from there I shall finally ascend to the heavens." After speaking, the Grandmaster closed his eyes and entered a deep, silent meditation. When his family reached out to him, his breath had ceased, and his body was cold. Believing he had reached the end of his mortal life, they laid him to rest with heavy hearts. The Grand Master had not truly died. On the very day his family laid his mortal body to rest, he was seen riding his azure bull toward the Hanggu Pass. Waiting at the road was an official named Yin Xi who had sensed a divine presence approaching from the east. When the Grand Master reached the gates, Yin Xi bowed low to the earth. "I have watched the stars and knew a great sage would arrive today," he said. "I beg you, Master, do not reject me. Accept me as your disciple." The Grand Master laughed kindly, seeing the deep sincerity in the man's heart. "You are indeed a man of destiny," he said. With great reverence, Yin Xi then welcomed the Grand Master into the pass. Once they were settled inside, Yin Xi performed the formal bows of a disciple. The Grand Master stayed and handed him a scroll of 5,000 words, the Tao Te Ching. "The root of all wisdom lies in understanding one's heart," the Grand Master taught. "Study this well, for your future is beyond measure." After teaching Yin Xi for some time, the Grand Master prepared to leave for the Kunlun Mountains. Yin Xi wept, unable to bear the parting. The Grand Master looked at him and said, "The first rule for a cultivator is to sever all human ties. If you truly master the way, I am always by your side. There is no need for constant meetings." Yin Xi bowed again, his voice trembling with resolve. "I am ready to leave my home and follow you, even if I must walk through fire or plunge into boiling water." The Grandmaster shook his head. I travel beyond the boundaries of heaven and earth with no fixed dwelling. You have only just begun your journey. How could a mortal body of flesh and blood follow me there? He then left Yin Xi with a mysterious promise. I must travel to the west to settle a mortal debt. Years ago, I promised a kind man that I would grant him a son. I shall now be reborn into that family to fulfill my word. In 25 years, come to the land of Shu and search for the green goat market. There you shall find me again. Yin Xi asked, Master, when shall we meet again? The Grandmaster replied, I must first visit Kunlun and the eastern seas. However, I still have a mortal debt to settle in the west. Years ago, at the Green Goat Market in Shu, I met a virtuous host who had no heir. In a moment of compassion, I promised that if he accumulated 500 more acts of merit, I would grant him a son. Now, that couple is over 120 years old. They have earned over 480 acts of merit. I shall go there myself to be reborn as their son. In 20 years, the boy will be born. 5 years after that, you may come to the land of Shu to find me. As he spoke, he pointed toward the horizon. A vibrant cloud descended to his feet, and his azure bull stepped firmly onto the shimmering mist beside him. The Grandmaster's face radiated a divine light that illuminated the 10 directions. Riding upon the bull, he drifted up into the sky. Yin Xi knelt and watched until the cloud vanished, weeping as he rose. From that day on, Yin Xi dedicated himself to the Tao Te Ching, mastering the art of non-action, Wu Wei, and bringing peace to the land through his governance. Based on what he had learned, he compiled 36 chapters of the West Ascension records, Shi Seng Ji. For 3 years, he focused on refining the golden elixir. He also wrote the book Guan Yin Zi. By the time his books and his golden elixir were both complete, exactly 25 years had passed. Remembering the Grandmaster's promise, Yin Xi resigned from his office, gave away his home, and traveled to the land of Shu to find the Green Goat Market. After searching for days with no news, Yin Xi remained patient, knowing the sage never spoke in jests. One day in the countryside, he saw a young boy leading an azure sheep. Yin Xi's heart leaped. The master's words always hold a hidden key. This sheep is the sign. He approached the boy. Young man, where does this sheep come from? The boy laughed. It's quite a story. My master and mistress are over 120 years old, and they have a 5-year-old son who loves this sheep. It went missing days ago, and the young master was heartbroken. I finally found it and am bringing it home to cheer him up. Yin Xi realized every detail matched the prophecy. Please tell your young master that his old friend Yin Xi is here to see him. The boy stared at him. Our master is only 5. How could he have an old friend like you? Yin Xi smiled. Not just a friend. I am his student. If you don't believe me, just tell him my name. When the 5-year-old boy heard Yin Xi's name, he immediately stood up and ordered his servants to bring the guest in. As Yin Xi entered the inner courtyard, the child transformed. Lotus flowers bloomed at his feet, and he grew into a towering golden figure 10 feet tall, glowing like the sun. I am the Grand Master, the boy declared. I was reborn here to fulfill a promise made 50 years ago. Now my mortal debt is settled. The Grandmaster then granted immortality to his mortal parents and family. Turning to Yin Xi, he said, Years ago, your body was still of flesh and blood, and your cultivation was not yet solid. But now I see the divine light on your face and the golden elixir within your heart. You have proven your devotion. Today I shall grant you your celestial title. The Grandmaster summoned the gods of the 3 realms and the immortals of all mountains. Amidst falling flowers and divine music, he named Yin Xi, Wen Xi Shenseng, Master Wen Xi, the supreme immortal of the 24 heavens. The Grandmaster ushered Yin Xi and his entire household into the heavens. In broad daylight, they all ascended as immortals. Then Laozi and Yin Xi alone returned to the 8 Visions Palace on Mount Kunlun. Having gained Master Wenxi as his disciple, the Grandmaster felt as if he had gained an extra arm. From then on, he entrusted all affairs, both celestial and mundane, to him as his proxy. One day, while playing chess with Wen Xi, the Grand Master suddenly halted his move, his eyes reflecting a distant world. "Do you know where my mount has gone?" he asked. Wen Xi replied, "I have not seen him for several days." The Grand Master sighed. "It is a matter of fate. That beast has been gone from the heavens for days. In the world below, several years have already passed. Even now he dwells in the Huashan Mountains, devouring men and beasts. Soon a fellow of our path will fall into his clutches. This man's future achievements will match your own. You must descend at noon tomorrow to rescue him and bring him to this palace." "And his name?" Wen Xi asked. "Li Xuan," the Grand Master replied, "a celestial official exiled for 10 lifetimes. His penance is complete, and his spirit remains pure. Tai Bai has guided him to the trials of Huashan. You will see for yourself when you arrive." Before Wen Xi departed, the Grand Master added, "Take the stable boy with you. He may be of help. Once the beast is captured, let the boy ride him back ahead of you." Wen Xi summoned the boy, the very same lad who had searched for the Azure sheep in the land of Shu. When they stood before the Grand Master, he scolded the boy sternly. "How have you managed your duties? Through your carelessness, the beast escaped to harm the innocent. Now a soul destined for the Tao is in peril. If he were to perish at the beast's hands, how could you ever atone for such a crime?" The boy, trembling and unable to offer a word in his defense, prostrated himself on the ground to plead for mercy. Only after Wen Xi spoke up for him did the Grand Master relent. "Rise, then, follow the immortal to the mortal realm and capture that creature to redeem yourself." Wen Xi and the boy descended on a cloud. Gazing down at Huashan, Wen Xi saw a thin line of mortal dust piercing through the mists into the heavens. "The demon is there," he whispered to the boy. "Be careful and do not be careless." As they reached the cave, Wen Xi used his divine eye and saw the lesser demons hoisting Li Xuan toward the rim of a boiling pot. Just as Li Xuan leaped into the water, Wen Xi flicked his wrist. In that split second, he summoned a massive block of ice from the North Sea and hurled it into the pot. The ice melted instantly, cooling the scalding water so that it was neither hot nor cold, just right for a bath. Li Xuan was bewildered but remained in the pot, thinking, "This must be another test from the Immortals. I shall stay here and see what happens." Wen Xi entered the cave. The demon Taoist who was waiting for his meal to be cooked turned pale with fear. Wen Xi drew the Grand Master's whip from his sleeve and struck. "Beast, reveal your true form." The Taoist rolled on the ground and transformed back into the azure bull, but it stubbornly lowered its horns to charge. Wen Xi pointed a finger and the weight of Mount Tai seemed to crash upon the bull. It could not move an inch, and in its helplessness it began to weep. "How dare you be so bold?" Wen Xi laughed. "Your master is furious. Boy, take him back." The stable boy, still resentful of the trouble the beast had caused him, kicked the bull several times. "You witless animal, you enjoyed yourself here while I nearly faced execution." "Enough," Wen Xi urged. "He has been punished enough. Spare him." The boy pierced the bull's nose, secured the rope, and flew back to the heavens ahead of them. Wen Xi Zhenren, sword in hand, inspected the cave and dispersed the remaining demons. He entered the kitchen, scattering the imps who tended the fires, and finally pulled Li Xuan from the pot. Stepping out, Li Xuan saw Wen Shi's radiant divine presence, a true golden immortal of the heavens, a world apart from the cruel demon he had just faced. Realizing this was the true master testing him, Li Xuan prostrated himself, kowtowing without end. Wen Shi laughed. "You are my junior brother in the Tao, there is no need for such ceremony. Go, put on your clothes, and follow me to Kunlun." After dressing and leaving that kitchen of slaughter, Li Xuan thanked him again and asked for his title. When Wen Shi revealed his identity and the Grandmaster's decree, Li Xuan was overwhelmed. To think his humble devotion had moved the great Ancestor himself. "How far is Kunlun from here?" Li Xuan asked. Wen Shi smiled. "For a mortal on foot, it would take some 60 years of running." Li Xuan stuck out his tongue in disbelief, silenced by the staggering scale of the immortal world.
"Let us go!" Wen Shi cried. With a wave of his hand, 2 crimson clouds descended from the sky. He took Li Xuan's hand, and they stepped onto the mist. Li Xuan, a novice to the sky, was trembling with fear. Wen Shi teased him. "You traveled all the way to Huashan and even jumped into a boiling pot without flinching. Why are you suddenly terrified of a little height?" Li Xuan couldn't help but laugh at his own fear. As the wind roared past, the world below became a blur of motion. He saw towering peaks, the winding veins of great rivers, bustling marketplaces, and endless forests, all receding like a dream. "Do not keep looking down," Wen Shi warned. "Your mortal body cannot withstand the vertigo. If you arrive at the palace dizzy, you will not be able to bow properly to the Grandmaster." Terrified, Li Xuan squeezed his eyes shut, surrendering to the rush of the wind. In less time than it takes to cook a meal, Wen Shi called out, "Halt!" Li Xuan opened his eyes to find himself on the highest peak of Kunlun. 2 young attendants approached with smiles. "Eldest brother has returned. The Grandmaster is waiting." Li Xuan followed Wen Shi, carefully straightening his robes and minding his steps with the utmost solemnity. They passed through a labyrinth of jade towers, jeweled pavilions, golden halls, and silver stairs, until they reached the great hall of the 8 Visions Palace. Wen Shi entered first to report the capture of the Azure Bull. A moment later, he led Li Xuan inside. Prostrating himself at the foot of the throne, Li Xuan cried, "Your disciple, Li Xuan, pays his respects. May the Grandmaster live for eternity." The Grandmaster's smile was warm. He granted Li Xuan a seat, though the new disciple was too humble to take it until Wen Shi urged him. As the sage looked upon Li Xuan, a mysterious joy filled his heart. What brings such delight remains a mystery. Listen on to the next chapter for the answer.